throwing down the whole city with their mounds, with their siege mounts and their swords, filling the streets with the dead bodies of men, filling the houses with the dead, because God, in his anger and fury, is executing his justice against the wicked. I have hid my face for the city. They call out for help, like in the last hour, having not actually worshipped God or been faithful to him. Just they want his benefits for the time. And what is sad there is just, it's come, it's time, too late now. And God's using the Chaldeans to be his instruments of his wrath and of his chastisement. But in the midst of this very dark time, God's kind of contrary like this. Jeremiah's ministry is one of being contrary. Same thing with Ezekiel. I will bring it in health and cure, and I will cure them, and will reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth. So there's going to come a time where there's going to be peace again, there's going to be truth again, curing. It's a painful surgery right now. What's actually happening now is going to help be a cure. The captivity of Judah, the southern kingdom, and the captivity of Israel, the northern kingdom, will return. And God's going to build them. Remember the building metaphor in terms of a city, in terms of a temple. As at the first, cleansing them from all their iniquity. There's that cleansing, purging of hyssop, just like to be like wool and snow. Purging them of their iniquities. Because they've sinned, they've transgressed. And it shall be to me a name of joy, a praise and honor before all nations of the earth. So the other nations are going to see this. They're going to see that Israel is the best nation. This is the greatest nation. Kings of the earth will be tributes to the king of Israel, son of David, right? The king of Israel, the son of David, rules all the world. And they shall fear and tremble at all the goodness and for all the prosperity that procure unto it. A goodness that is so good, it causes you to react in fear and trembling. Charles Williams, I think it's in The Place of the Lion, my friend Shane would talk about, and I haven't read it yet. But Charles Williams, the Anglican, talking about terrible good, terribly good. A character says this kind of off the cuff, and then the other one who's more serious says, have you ever thought about that? Terrible good? A good that is so good it scares you, it's fearsome, it's awesome. And it doesn't take too much imagination to see tying that to shame and the reaction of fleeing from God's presence if one is evil and sinful like Adam and Eve were. But God's going to do amazing things. A good thing he's promised to Israel and to Judah, where they'll be united again. And at that time I will cause a branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, unto the house of David. Who is this? What is this? This is Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Son of David, who has mercy upon us. He's going to execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely. True Jerusalem, true Judah. Remember that. That's kind of a distinction that's made in Acts and in other places. People think they are children of Abraham, but they're actually children of the devil. Because of how they respond to the branch of righteousness. Now, true Jerusalem is called this, the Lord our righteousness. Now, Christ is our righteousness. He is our righteous one. Our righteousness is found in him. We are made righteous in him. If we abide in him, we abide in righteousness. We are right before God. We can have a union with him. We can be in a peaceful relationship and fellowship with him. Let's go on to the New Testament reading from John. It's Passover, bonking us over the head with that. Jesus knows his hour is to come. He's been sent by the Father, and he's going to be returning to the Father. It's also this picture of the bridegroom being with the bride, kind of the sweet last moments before he has to go off for a while. Until there's the marriage supper of the Lamb again, which is something John again will revisit in Revelation. The supper is ended. Devil puts in the heart of Judas Iscariot to betray. Right? Again, that emphasis on Judas. Don't be Judas. Be more like Philip, Andrew, Peter. Jesus knows the Father given all things into his hand. He's going to God, back to God. He rose from supper, and then he does again the Maundy Thursday thing that we often remember, where he takes on the form of a servant. More literally, he has been a servant up to this point, and has humbled himself up to this point. But then he just really kind of unveils, or actually veils, in the form of a servant. Shows that he is a slave. He is the master, but he serves. You want to be great in his kingdom? You want to get higher in the kingdom? Serve. Lower yourself. Humble yourself. Abase yourself. And Simon Peter, I love Peter, just right off the top of his head, it's like, don't wash my feet. I'm not worthy of that. You shouldn't act this way towards me. You're the great one. And then Jesus says, if I don't wash you, you have no part with me. He's like, well, in that case, wash my hands and my head as well. And, he's all in. And he's like, listen, he that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit, is all clean. And you're clean, he says this to Peter, but not all. And that's a reference to Judas. And again, this is a very intimate moment, and you think about, again, the risk this means for us, and the awareness that is being brought to our attention. And we need to be very serious about our moment-by-moment walk with Christ, our discipleship with Him. Whose example are we going to follow, Peter or Judas? And there I am, touching my face during the COVID epidemic. I apologize. I'll wash my hands later. Anyway. I've given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. That's what we're called to be. Imitate Christ's example. Truly, or verily, verity, right? Verily. Truly, truly, verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. So, you're not greater than me. Why would you act like you are and refuse to serve and refuse to humble yourself? I've set the example. Follow my example. If you know these things, happy are ye if you do them. Have the joy of this, the joy of humility, the joy of service, and the joy of following Christ and following His example. And that is something, again, focusing our hearts and minds on where we need to be as we approach this Easter. Tomorrow will be Palm Sunday, focusing on the triumphal entry of our King, and remembering what does it mean to be a faithful subject of this King, and to be, what does greatness in His kingdom look like? And it looks like service. So I'll see you all tomorrow. We'll be talking about the elections for Sunday. But until then, good night.